You're footing the bill tonight. You make more, Dad said as the waiter set down the $1,847 check for a table of 14. My sister's husband grinned. Finally good for something. I slid out my card, paid, then stood up. This was nice. Also, I'm selling the apartment. Moving out soon. Their jaws went slack. They'd been living there temporarily for 4 years. Visual. Opening with a shot of a dimly lit restaurant. Maybe a bill being placed on a table, or a close-up of a hand clutching a credit card, then a quick cut to a wide-eyed family looking shocked. Have you ever felt like your entire life was being drained away, penny by penny, by the very people who claim to love you? I certainly did. And it all came to a head the night I paid a nearly $2,000 dinner bill, then stood up and dropped a bomb that shattered my family's sense of entitlement forever. My name is Chris. I'm 32, a physical rehabilitation therapist, and for years, my family had me pegged as the one who made it. Oldest child, first to graduate, first to buy an apartment. They also knew me as the one they'd call when a back hurt, a car broke down, or a bill was a bit tight. Basically, I was the walking, talking emergency fund with a face. I work long hours, helping post-surgery patients, athletes, grandparents. I teach people how to walk again, how to move without pain. I'm good at what I do, and I love seeing the progress. What I don't like is coming home and realizing I have less respect in my own family than I get from strangers who can barely climb stairs. 4 years ago, I bought a 2-bedroom apartment. It was supposed to be my place, my clean start. I'd saved for years, skipped every indulgence imaginable. No eating out, no new clothes, just work and saving. I bypassed all the normal 20-something fun because I desperately wanted something that was truly mine. When I finally signed the papers, I actually cried in the elevator going up. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. It felt like proof that all the sacrifice was worth it. My parents were so proud then. They showed up with a plant and some cheap champagne. My little sister, Hannah, and her husband, Tom, though, they showed up with nothing but immediately claimed the bigger bedroom for sleepovers. You know, for when they visited. They were renting their own place at the time. Tom, well, he couldn't hold a job for more than a year. Sales, marketing, crypto, whatever was trendy that week. Hannah worked part-time at a salon. Every time something went wrong, my parents would swoop in to save them. But now, saving them increasingly meant involving me. About 6 months after I moved in, my mom called. "Sweetheart, can we come by tonight? It's important." In my family, important always meant expensive. They sat at my kitchen table, all serious. Hannah and Tom are in a bit of trouble with their landlord. Mom started. They fell behind. Just a little. The landlord is being unreasonable. I later found out a bit behind meant 5 months. Tom just shrugged. It's a rough market. Then Mom hit me with it. We were thinking maybe they could stay here for a while, just temporarily. A few months, until they get back on their feet. I just stared at them. "All 3 of you in my 2-bedroom? Mom waved it off. "You're barely here. You work so much, and you're single. You don't need all this space. You always say you want to help people, Chris. Well, these are your people." That line. It's her favorite weapon. If I said no, I'd be the selfish, bad son, bad brother. "We'll help with groceries when we can," Dad added. That part, of course, never really happened. I caved. Of course I did. They moved in for a few months. Right away, the roles were clear. They took the master bedroom. "You don't mind, right?" Hannah asked, already hanging her clothes. "We have more stuff." I got the smaller room. They brought their dog, who doesn't shed, according to them. My dark couch vehemently disagreed. Bills quietly shifted. My name was on everything: utilities, internet, building fees. Hannah would send me maybe $50 every now and then and call it our part. The rest was on me. At first, I told myself it was fine. Family helps family. I still had enough to cover my own expenses, some savings. But it never stopped. Tom lost another job, then another. My phone would light up. "Can you cover rent this month? We're waiting on a check." Netflix stopped working. "Can you look?" It says payment declined. My card was attached to that account, naturally. When I finally started tracking everything in a spreadsheet, I honestly scared myself. Over 3 years, I'd covered their portion of rent, which was never actually agreed upon, just sort of assumed. Utility increases from 2 extra adults and a dog constantly at home. Their car insurance, just for a bit. A vet emergency when the dog swallowed a sock, Hannah's dental work because my credit card is maxed. On top of that, my parents constantly hinted at how reassuring it was that I was there if they needed help, too. We'll pay you back when the refund comes in, Dad would say about car repairs. There was no refund. There never was. What made it worse was their utter lack of respect. I'd come home after a 10-hour day of helping stroke patients learn to stand, only to find Tom on my couch, controller in hand. Rough day, he'd ask, without taking off his headset. Yeah. I'd answer, dropping my bag. He'd just nod. Same man. Ranked matches are brutal. The first real crack in my just suck it up mindset came one night when I walked into the living room and heard my name. Hannah and my mom were on speakerphone, laughing. I swear, Tom, my sister said. Chris is basically our landlord and our masseuse. Mom chimed in. Well, he doesn't have a wife or kids. His money's for all of us. That's why God made him so practical. Yeah, Tom added. It's like having an on-call fixer with magic hands. They had no idea I was standing in the hallway, listening. Something twisted in my chest. I backed into my room, shut the door quietly, and just sat there. Asterisk an on-call fixer. Cool. Asterisk from then on, I started noticing every single comment. Must be nice, Dad would say, whenever I mentioned something normal, like buying new shoes. Some of us have real responsibilities. My lack of responsibilities got brought up a lot. Translation: you don't have kids, so you don't get to keep your paycheck. Hannah would sigh dramatically over her iced coffee. We could save so much if we didn't have to pay for daycare and food and everything. You're lucky, Chris. You just have yourself. I was paying for most of the food in that apartment, too. But okay. Then came the car situation. One day, I got a call from the bank. Mr. Carter, we just need to confirm your income and employment for the car loan you applied for. I hadn't applied for anything. Long story short, Tom had accidentally put my email and phone number as the primary contact on his car loan application because your credit is better, man. They'll approve it faster. They almost attached me as a co-signer without me knowing. I lost it that day. There was a huge fight, yelling, tears, and my mom's predictable, "We don't fight like this in this family." But even then, after all that drama, nothing really changed. They apologized. I cooled down. Life went on, exactly the same. So, when Dad suggested this big birthday dinner, I already had a bad feeling. "We want to celebrate properly this year," Mom said. "You know, fancy place, nice photos. Your sister and Tom are strapped right now, but they'll come. It'll be special." Special always meant Chris is paying for something. I told myself I'd just cover my share. Maybe Dad's. Be reasonable. Set a small boundary. I underestimated how little they cared about reasonable. Back to the rooftop restaurant. 14 of us at the table. Parents, Hannah and Tom, their 2 kids, an aunt and uncle, a couple cousins. Everyone ordered like the menu didn't have prices. "This steak looks good," Tom said. "Only $80. YOLO, right, Chris?" He grinned at me. I ordered the cheapest thing that wasn't a side dish, because I knew exactly what an $80 steak looked like on my budget. We drank wine I didn't choose. They ordered desserts for the whole table without asking. There were shots at one point. A birthday tower that cost more than my weekly groceries. When the waiter finally brought the bill, he placed it in front of my dad with a little nod. Dad flipped it open, barely blinked, then rotated it toward me like he was showing me a cool meme. "You're covering everyone tonight. You make more money," he announced, his voice loud, like it was a toast. A couple of my cousins laughed. Mom did her fake scandalized thing. "Oh, Greg," she said, patting his arm. "Don't bully him." Then, she turned to me. "But honestly, honey, you do earn the most, and this is a big milestone for your father. It would mean a lot." Tom leaned in close and whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. Finally, useful for something. Then he downed the rest of his drink. Something in me snapped. But it was a quiet snap. A silent, terrifying breaking point. I looked at the number. $1,847. That was half a month's income after taxes. That was my emergency fund. That was my patient's co-pays that I argued about with insurance companies. My hands felt weirdly steady. "You really expect me to pay for 14 people?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Dad frowned, like I'd just ruined the vibe. "Chris, don't make a scene. You know your sister and Tom can't afford this. We raised you better than to be selfish." Hannah chimed in. "Yeah, it's just money. You'll make more next month. It's not like you have a family to support. That line again. No family to support. I looked around the table. The same people who'd been living off me for years. Okay, I said quietly. Got it. I pulled out my card. The waiter hovered. Will this be together or separate? Dad gestured at me. All together. He's got it. The waiter nodded and walked away with my card. I watched it leave like I was watching a little red lifeboat drift further from shore. While he ran the payment, everyone went back to chatting. Vacations they wanted, things they needed to buy. Hannah talked about upgrading the kids' tablets. Tom joked about wanting a bigger TV. Nobody thanked me. Nobody even acknowledged what was happening. The waiter came back with the receipt. Here you go, sir. Thank you. I signed. My stomach twisted, but the weirdest thing was, I felt calm. Absolutely, completely done. I stood up and raised my glass. Okay, I said. I need everyone's attention for a second. They all went quiet. Someone joked, "Oh, speech," and laughed. First, I said, looking at my dad, "Happy birthday, Dad. I hope you enjoy dinner." He smirked, relaxed. "See, I told you he'd do it," he mumbled. I looked straight at Hannah and Tom. And second, I wanted to let you all know that this is the last time I pay for anything for this family. The table froze. What? Mom asked, her smile flickering. I kept going. Including the apartment, I said. I'm selling it. I'm moving out soon. You too. I nodded at Hannah and Tom. Need to start looking for a new place. You could have heard a fork drop. Hannah's face went white. You're what? Tom laughed like I was joking. Very funny, man. Don't be dramatic. I'm not joking, I said. I've already talked to a realtor. The listing photos happen next week. Dad slammed his hand on the table. Christopher, this is not the time. Actually, I said, my voice staying steady. It surprised even me. It's exactly the time. Because I just paid $1,800 so you could all have a fun night. On top of 4 years of subsidizing Hannah and Tom. On top of bailing you out of car repairs and credit cards and bills. I took my phone out and opened my notes app. I've paid for your daycare late fees, I said to Hannah. Your vet bills. Your utilities. I covered 3 months of mom and dad's mortgage during COVID. Remember that? Almost 10 grand total, not counting this dinner. A couple of my cousins looked down at their plates. And what I get in return, I continued, is being called an on-call fixer and finally useful for something. Tom went red. You were eavesdropping. So you admit you said it, I said. Great. Mom's eyes flashed. We are not talking about this here. Sit down. No, I said. I felt weirdly light, like a weight was sliding off piece by piece. I'm done sitting down and shutting up so you can keep using me. I set my empty glass down. You have 30 days, I repeated to Hannah and Tom. I'll put it in writing since everybody loves to forget what I say. Then I looked at my parents. And in the future, if you can't afford a dinner like this, don't book it and assume I'll cover it. If you ask nicely in advance, maybe I'll consider chipping in. But this, I gestured at the cleared plates, the half-full wine glasses. This surprise Chris will pay thing is over. Silence. The music from the restaurant suddenly felt too loud. My dad's jaw clenched. You're punishing your sister's family because you're bitter. I'm protecting myself because you refuse to respect me, I said. And for the first time in my life, I actually believed my own words. People think the dramatic speech is the hardest part. It's not. It's what comes after. The fallout, the group chats, the calls, the guilt bombing. It started in the parking lot. As soon as we stepped outside, the night air hit us, and so did my mother. She grabbed my arm. Christopher, what was that? You humiliated us in front of everyone. I gently took my arm back. I stated boundaries in front of witnesses, I said. That's different. Dad joined in. Where are they supposed to go? Out on the street? You want your niece and nephew homeless. There it was. The kid's card. I'd been waiting for it. They have 2 incomes, I said. They can find a 1-bedroom or a studio like every other young couple who isn't being carried. They've had 4 years of a head start living rent-free. Use the time. I don't know. Don't buy new iPhones every year. Hannah walked up, already crying. How can you do this to us? She asked. We're family. Tom shook his head. Over one dinner? Seriously. I laughed. I couldn't help it. This isn't about one dinner. This is about 4 years of you acting like my paycheck is a subscription service. Mom pressed her lips together. We didn't raise you to be cruel. You raised me to ignore my own needs, I said. That's changing. I got in my car and left. By the time I got home, the family group chat was a war zone. Mom, You blindsided everyone tonight. We could have discussed this calmly at home. Dad, you owe your sister an apology. That was shameful behavior. Hannah, so you're really kicking us out after everything we've been through? Tom, thanks for ruining your dad's birthday over a check. LOL. There were a couple of messages from cousins, too. One, that was wild, but honestly, proud of you. Another, you were harsh, but they needed a wake-up call. I turned my phone on Do Not Disturb and slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I did something I'd been too scared to do. I called the realtor I'd emailed weeks ago and said, I'm ready. Let's list the place. We scheduled photos. He sent me comparable prices. The number he quoted for the sale made my head spin. Not billionaire money, but enough to change my life if I wasn't constantly patching holes in everyone else's. Then, I sat Hannah and Tom down in the living room. No audience, no restaurant, just us. I'm giving you formal notice, I said, handing them a printed letter with the date. 30 days. I'm selling. You need to find a new place. Hannah's eyes flicked over the paper. You're really serious? She whispered. Yeah, I said. I am. Tom scoffed. You can't just throw us out. Tenants have rights. You're not tenants, I said. You've never paid rent. There's no lease. You're my guests. And my guests have overstayed. That's heartless, Hannah said. What's heartless? I replied. Is trying to attach me to a car loan without asking, or expecting me to cover daycare late fees and restaurant bills and pretending that's normal. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. This isn't punishment, I said. It's reality. If I sell this apartment, I can clear my own debts, maybe open a small rehab studio, actually have a future. I can't do that with 3 extra adults living off me. Tom muttered something about control issues. I didn't argue. I'd done enough explaining. The next few weeks were awkward. They started slamming doors. Passive-aggressive dishes piled in the sink. Their dog suddenly forgot he was house-trained. My parents called daily. Mom cycled through every stage. Guilt. You know your father, and I won't be around forever. Is this how you want to remember us? Fighting. After all we did for you growing up, this is how you repay us. Fear. Hannah is so stressed she can't sleep. The kids are confused. Is that what you want? Then bargaining. What if they just pay a little rent? We can all work something out. I stuck to one sentence. The decision is made. I repeated it so many times it started to feel like a meditation. Not going to lie, there were moments I almost caved. Like when my niece came into my room one night and asked, Uncle Chris, are we moving because we were bad? I hugged her close and said, No, sweetheart. You were perfect. The grown-ups just need to fix some things. I went into my own therapy more often that month. My therapist kept bringing me back to the same point. You're not making them homeless, she said. You're making them responsible. When the listing went up, my mom lost it. She sent me a long message about airing family business to strangers because the photos showed their cluttered bedroom. Then she dropped the mask. Fine. Do whatever you want. But don't come crying to us when you're alone in some tiny apartment with no one to help you. That one stung. But also it was almost funny. No one to help me. I'd been helping them nonstop for years. The only difference now was that I'd stopped. The apartment sold faster than expected. Got an offer over asking within 2 weeks. When I told Hannah and Tom the closing date, they finally started packing like it was real. They ended up moving into a smaller rental on the edge of the city. No balcony, no rooftop view, no master suite. Just a normal apartment people pay for with their own money. My parents helped them with the deposit, which they absolutely could have done years ago. Wild concept, right? As for me, I rented a modest 1-bedroom closer to my work. Smaller kitchen, less sunlight, no Instagram-worthy skyline. But when I walked in the first night and shut the door, the silence felt peaceful. No game noises, no arguments in the living room, no extra shoes in the hallway. Just my stuff, my bills, my life. With the money from the sale, I paid off my student loans in one go, cleared my credit card, put a chunk into savings labeled Clinic Dream. It was the first time my bank account looked like it belonged to an adult who wasn't constantly one crisis away from zero. My patients noticed the change in me before my family did. You look lighter, one of my regulars said. Did you go on vacation? Kind of, I answered. From my family. We both laughed, but I meant it. At work, I started talking with a colleague about opening a small rehab studio together in the future. Something more personal than the big clinic. Before, that idea would have felt irresponsible. Now it felt possible. My parents still invited me to things, but always with an asterisk. We're having dinner Sunday. Hannah and Tom will be there. We expect you to be civil. I went once. They spent the whole time talking about how rough the move had been. We had to downgrade, Hannah complained. I missed the view. The kids missed the space, Tom added. Our new place doesn't even have a gym in the building. First world problems, right? No one mentioned the part where they now actually pay rent. At the end of the night, when the bill came, it landed in the middle of the table. Everyone looked at it, then at me. I smiled. So, separate checks? I asked the waiter. Dad glared. But after an awkward pause, everyone mumbled, yeah, separate is fine. And just like that, the spell broke a little more. It's been 6 months since that rooftop dinner. To my parents, this is when Chris turned cold. In my mom's version, I'm selfish and obsessed with money, meaning I stopped funding everyone's life. In their story, I kicked kids out and chose cash over family. In mine, I finally chose myself. My life is smaller now, in a good way. Plain 1-bedroom, basic stuff, quiet nights. But everything in it is mine. I know where my money goes. I open my banking app and don't feel sick to my stomach. I still help people. That's literally my job. I stay late with nervous patients. Still get videos of them climbing stairs again. That kind of help fills me up. I just don't let my family treat me like an ATM anymore. I see them less and only on my terms. If they invite me out, I ask, how are we handling the bill? If it's vague, I pass. When my dad hinted about taxes, I said, I can't help with money, but I can help you call the bank. He dropped it. My sister and I have a quiet truce. She sends photos of the kids. Sometimes we meet at the park. Once she said, we actually had to make a budget. It sucked, but I get that you were drowning. Not an apology, but close. My mom still throws, hope you're happy in your little apartment, like it's an insult. Honestly, I am. For the first time, I'm actually standing on my own 2 feet. What about you? Have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with family about money or boundaries? Tell me what you think. I really want to know in the comments below.